Alright, here's a demo of FT Primus. So you'll receive security ID, you'll receive a password, and a custom code that will be unique to your company. This is where the data information is housed and keeps it separate from other clients. You'll log into the system. And I have my demonstration software set up to open to the calendar. I also have it set to the pilot view. So you have different options for the views that you can have the calendar open up, and that's changed in the settings, and we'll go over that later on. What I wanted to do is show you right now just how to build a trip. So what you'll do is you have two ways of doing this. You can either click directly on the calendar date that you want the trip to start. That will bring up the add a trip menu. You'll put in your information and add the trip, or you can go to this little plus and click on the airplane. That would be used if for some reason you just wanted to go ahead, you knew the date and you wanted to go ahead and enter it directly. I prefer clicking it on the calendar because it's one less bit of information that you have to enter, because the date will auto-populate. You'll assign your trip a trip ID number. You'll have the option of having your trip status either confirmed, or you can have the other categories if you're just trying to make it tentative, reserve the aircraft if you want it secured. And these are all customizable based on what's appropriate for your operation. So I'm just going to make it a confirmed trip. You'll be able to show the status of the seats, whether they're opened or closed. This is relevant for the web calendar, because people can look at the web calendar and they can see if there are open seats or no seats, and if or they can see how many seats are available. If you do not want anyone else to be able to request a seat on a trip, then you can make it closed and it'll show that there's 0 seats available. So you'll save this information and it'll bring up the first leg. It will tell you it's the first leg. It'll auto-populate the first date of the trip. You'll assign it an aircraft, and it will auto-populate how many passenger seats are available on that aircraft. The departure, if it's the first leg of a trip, the software knows that the aircraft has gone back to base, so it will have your first departure as your base location. The only items that you have to enter in order to create a trip are the items highlighted in red. So anything else is optional information. But you'll go ahead and you can put in where you're going. And you can enter either what time you need to leave or what time you need to arrive. And the system will tell you the other information. So it says you need to leave at 7:36 in order to get there at 5 o'clock. You also have the ability to only enter the three character ICAOs, or you can enter the 4. Some of our clients like to use the 3, some use the 4, so we've got it so you can customize that. You would put in your ground time, or if it's a RON, I'm going to make this a 2-day trip, so I'm going to go ahead and put 1-day RON. Your business category, your leg category for each leg can be designated, so this is also customizable, so you can put that on there. Your charge rate, if you have charge rates, and your duty standard. You also, if you use the authorizers, you have the ability to put in an authorizer and then the authorizer code, and this is typically for accounting purposes, but it is an option that's there for you. Also, if there are any warnings for the aircraft, they'll pop up on this screen. It'll give you any information that you need to double check for regarding the aircraft. Now the second leg will tell you the next day, your aircraft number, it's leg number 2. You're going to be leaving from where you arrived, and I'll just make this a back to base. I'll put in that we're going to leave at 1300. And then, so all of your information is there. Since we're going back to base, I'm going to leave ground time and the raw information blank, and I'm just going to save it because I'm not going to be adding another leg. Again, your warning for the aircraft. So this brings up your trip screen, and on your trip screen, this is where all of the other information is going to be entered for that particular trip. You're going to add your passengers. They'll be in your database, and you can add them according to who's in your database. If you need to add someone who's not in your database, all you would do was enter their name right there. That will then add them to the trip. It will also create a record for them in the database that you can go back in later on and fill out or complete the information for that passenger. If they have a sponsor, this is for civil purposes, you can enter a sponsor here, and then you can check which leg they're going to be on. If they're only going to be on one leg, then you can click one leg. You can save next if you're going to add additional passengers, or you can just save it if you're finished adding your passengers. Now, also, I wanted to show you back, if you go in the leg menu and if something happens and you need to add a leg to a trip, you can do it very quickly and simply right here. You just click on the add a leg button and it gives you the screen to add a leg. All right, crew. So you're going to crew your trip. You've got leg number 1. You're going to put in your PIC. And then also it gives you a warning for any deficiencies, anything that's overdue, anything that relates to the crew's flying currencies or flying information. And then your SIC, and the same thing. And then what you can do is designate who gets credit for the first leg of flying, either the PIC or the SIC. If you have additional crew members, you can add them here. And then you can save next if you want to add new crew members to the next leg. If it's the same crew members and they're going to fly the same way, so the PIC is going to get credit on both legs of the flight, you can just copy it. If they're going to rotate credit, you can roll it. So you have a couple of easy, quick options for entering the information without having to go to the next screen and enter it again. So I'll just go ahead and roll them so they each get credit. And you can see one has credit on the first leg, the other has credit on the second leg. So there your crews entered. We have the ability for you to add leg messages to the trip. So if there's something that you want to show up on the itinerary or the pilot trip sheet that you want both the crew and the passengers to see, you can put that information here. If you have information just for the crew, you can put that there, and just for the passengers there. So if you put a passenger message on, it won't show up on the pilot trip sheet. If you put it on the crew messages, it'll show up on the pilot trip sheet, but it will not show up on the itinerary. And so we can just put no, just a basic. Now, if you wanted to add a message on the second leg, you would save and go next, and it would give you the next leg. If you're finished, now it gives me a message that my aircraft flight endurance is exceeded. So I'm having this aircraft go from Detroit to BCG, and it's not going to make it. So gives you a warning, tells you need to make a change. So if you wanted to add a trip message, you could. For the second leg, you don't have to. This is optional information. Same with the trip message. Now this will show any catering information that you have in the passenger database. What's nice about this too is if you have information in here, you can highlight it, right click it, or Control-C, copy it, and you could put it on a leg message if you wanted that information to show up for a specific leg. So you do have the ability to copy this information if you want to. Now you can add a trip message. You can add the reason for the trip if you want to add it again, and the trip purpose if you want to add it again. We also have this little notepad here. This does not print anywhere. It's just if you want to make a note so that you can refer back to it later on. All right. right, and then the airport information. So I have set as a default for here, I have a default or preferred airport, FBO, as signature. If you click on the drop-down message, it'll give you all of the airports, all the FBOs at that particular airport, and it gives you all of the information. You also have the ability to add FBO notes, and this will show up on the trip sheet for the pilots. If you're in FT Primus and you're using a cell phone, you do have the ability, these little phone icons, you can call the FBO directly from your phone. You don't have to dial the information or anything. You just click the telephone and you'll auto dial the FBO. That's if you open FT Primus in your cell phone. So it gives you all the information about it. We pull the information from AccuQuick. And so then you go to Detroit and look at who your FBOs are. Signature is the only one. So we're going to pick signature, and same, you got all the information about the airport and everything that you need. And since we don't have another leg, there's no reason to save next. You just save the information. And then your airport information is entered. Now these are fields that we've put this information in there. It's completely optional for you to use if you choose to use it. What you can do is put in for your passengers, it pulls their hotel preference information for hotels. You can add a new hotel. It's going to be on the first leg. And then you put in the location, Detroit. And then it pulls up, the system will pull up all of the hotels that are local in the area. You can select one. You can also add your own. And then it auto-populates the information. You can put in here your confirmation, your rate. It will pull any member numbers that are in the profile for the passenger. Excuse me. And you also have the ability to pull up a map if you need directions. And it gives you a map so you can figure out how to get there. This is all if you're in the system. So if your passengers have access to FT Primus, then that would be something that's available to them. Otherwise, their hotel information will show up on their itinerary. And save it. And then you have the ability to do the exact same thing for the crew. So we have the hotel information. It pulls what's in their database. And then you can add their hotel. You can also add car, limo. And the same for passenger. You can add a car or limo also. One of the nice features that we have is when your pilots are working the trip, they have the ability to go in and log into FT Primus, and they can enter all of their expenses relating to the aircraft. So any of their expenses that they incur while they're on the trip, they can also enter it, and then it's uploaded into the system, and either the scheduler has that information at home, or it's just in there so they don't have to do it later on. They also have the ability to attach pictures of the receipts. So what the pilots or the crew would need to do is take a picture of the receipt with their phone or their tablet, save it to their pictures, and then they can click on this little add icon, go to their pictures, and then they'd be able to add that information. And that would add a picture to that expense. And then it will also add it when the reports are pulled. So you can do that for all of those kinds of expenses. And then the next thing you do is for crew costs. You have the ability to do the same thing for crew costs. The crew can add any of their expenses if it's appropriate, if they need to, if that's something that your operation requires. And they can add receipts, pictures of receipts. It helps to eliminate the whole paper, submitting paper at the end of the trip and trying to get everybody on a paperless, and also streamline the process. And there you have it. The plane's not going to make it as far as it needs to go, but if you look on your calendar, your trip is now in your calendar, and there it is right there. Now, one of the things that I do want to show you also, when you click on the trip after you've created it, you can either dispatch, or this is how you would get to the post time menu. We're going to go back to dispatch. You'll see right here in this corner, there's this little hamburger menu. So it has trip actions. And so if you have a trip, if this is a trip you fly on a regular basis, you can actually copy this trip so you don't have to enter it over and over again. Assign it a new trip ID, use a different aircraft that maybe will make it, and put in your new date. Oh, trip ID. And continue. And you'll see here's the new trip. And that new trip has just been copied. It copies everything, so it also copies the passenger, it also copies the crew. So if you did need to make a change to the passengers, all you do is go in here, click on this passenger, delete them, and add a new passenger. Put them on the legs, and save it. And so then you've got your new passenger added. Now, the other thing you can do from there is you can also rename the trip if you need to rename a trip. You can also have squawks entered. You can file your APIS from here. You can also generate some trip reports. What I'm working on is having it so that this list is frequently used reports and not just random reports, which is what my demonstration has. It's just to give you a sample, but I'm trying to, what we're working on is having it so that these are reports that are relevant for your operation and that you use most frequently. So if you wanted to have the passenger itinerary, you can view it. And so it gives you your passenger itinerary view. It shows you that it's going from Denver to Detroit, all of your times, your crew information, your passenger information, and then the airport FBO information. If I had put a leg message on here, it would have shown up right here under the first leg. And you can see there's a trip message and it says Daily Wall Street Journal will be on board. This is a default trip message that I've put into the system so that it has the information and it always shows up. And so if you have a default message that you want to always show up, I'll show you how to enter that in a few minutes. You can either print the itinerary from here, you can download it, or you can go ahead and email it. And if you want to email it to someone who's not involved in the trip specifically, you can do that here. Send a message. Also, if you click on here to load items, it will add the people who are involved in the trip, so the crew and the passenger. And then you can automatically send it to all of them. You can unclick if you only want to send it to the passenger and then send it to the passenger. As I said, you can include a message, and then you can also send it to anyone else. You have the ability to send a carbon copy or a blind carbon copy. And the same with all of these reports, they essentially work the same. If it's a financial report, expense report, something like that, that it can be sent in Excel format, then you can also send it as an Excel spreadsheet. And then we also have trip appointments. So what you can do is you can send everyone involved with the trip a trip appointment. It will show up as an appointment and can be saved to their Outlook calendar. You can also pull additional emails from your database, or you can add an email to someone who is not in the database. If you only want to send it to the crew, you send it crew, if only to the passengers, and then you can also send it unconditionally and it will go out to everyone. And then your SMS reporting is here. And if you, for some reason, need to delete the trip, you can delete the trip right here. So this is a nice little fast way to get to different components of the trip and be able to do different things, especially for trip reports, so that you don't have to go to the trip report menu, look for the report, and go through the process of scrolling, but you have a quick way to look for reports you use on a regular basis. And so then on this, the left side is where all of the information relevant to the software is housed. So we've got our calendar. Here's your aircraft information. If you need to add a new aircraft, this is where you would do that. You would put in all of your items for that aircraft. Your airports. When you start your system, it will default and you'll have approximately 20 airports. As you build trips and you're accessing airports, those airports will show up in this list. And one of the things that you can do if you're going to say Albuquerque, and it gives you all the information about Albuquerque, general information, and then the FBOs. If you're going to a private hangar or you need to add an FBO that's new and it's not in AccuQuick's database for some reason, you have the ability to add that information right here. So you can go ahead and put in all the information that's relevant for that new FBO. It also gives you information. Wants me to cancel. Also gives you any restrictions, any notes that you want to put relevant to that airport. You have a place to put them. Your hotel information, caterers. If you have caterers that you want to add for an FBO or for the airport, you can add them here. Same with limo services, car services, or if it's international, your handlers. You can add all that information there. And then here's your crew database. If you need to add a new crew member, you would do that here. I'm just going to show you what one of the crews looks like. So it gives you all of your information. You can have them designated as contract or not contract. If they're employees, you've got their employee information, documents. You also have the ability for documents or any other certifications. You can take pictures of them and you can store pictures in the software. So if they have a currency certificate or some other kind of document, passports, driver's license, anything like that, you also have the ability to store them in the software. And then credit card information, if you choose to store any of the credit card information, you can do that here. And then here is their currency information. And events, you can schedule them here. Hotel preferences, car preferences. If there are reasons for them to possibly airline home, you've got the ability to store their airline information. And then flight. If they fly outside of a trip within your organization, but you want to enter that flight information in here, you have the ability to do that. And then crew duty. And this is where you can put in any kind of crew duty you want them to get credit for. You want it to show up on the calendar, and it's outside of flying duty. So also here's what you can do with vacation or sick, standby, personal days off. You can also customize these. So vacation, for example, I'm going to copy it. Oh, I have to save it first. So they're going to start vacation on 8/21 if that's when you want it to start, or you can pick another date that they're going to start vacation, say September 15th. It's going to be for 4 days. And so now they're scheduled out for vacation for 4 days, and if you go to the flight calendar, and we look at September, you can see it shows them on vacation for those 4 days. So you have that ability to show that on the calendar. And then your passenger database is where you can add your new passengers. And it's pretty much the same as with the crew. The information, the base information, employee information, if the passenger happens to be an employee, documents, you have the ability to save any of the documents. Here you see we've got some documents saved here. And it's really always saved. It's just a sample of something. And then their accounts, their hotel, car, and their catering information. If you want to put something in here as far as, you know, that applies all the time, you know, alcohol non-drinker, prefers Pepsi over Coke. Things like that, you can put this in there. They will show up for every trip that they are put on, and that way you have that information in there. You can copy it from the trip, and you can put it in a leg message if you need to for the caterer. And then if for some reason you've got airline information you want to save for them, you can. And then this is where all of the reports are housed. So if you were going to look for a report that wasn't in that little trip menu, or you need a report that applies to the entire operation, not just a specific trip. For example, I was working with someone yesterday on the flight calendar monthly. So you can do all of your aircraft and load them up. And so all your aircraft are going to show up on this. If there's one or two you don't want, you can unclick it, or you can just click the ones that you want. But you have options for how you build this report. And you'll pick the time, the dates that you want it. Do it for the month. And then what you can do is view it first. You've got different views that you have access to. So pilot view, passenger, or pilot brief. And then do you want to include crew duty items? I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to do I'll do the passenger so you can see what that looks like. So this gives you the calendar. It gives you a view of the calendar so you can see what it looks like. It's in the passenger, so it spells out the names of the cities, and it gives the airport codes. But some people may not know what the airport codes are, so that's why we have this passenger view. It also gives them 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the AM, PM instead of the 24-hour clock. So it gives you everything that you've got in here for your crew. It also shows you right here, this person's on vacation, so it gives you all the information. If I had clicked that I didn't want to see that vacation note would not be there. So you can print it from here, you can download it, you can close it out, and then you can email it to whomever you need to email that to. You can designate what kind of email, what kind of view you're going to email. Do you want to include the due items? And we'll say yes. We'll say here. Continue. And this gives you the email options. So if you load the items, it's going to give you everyone who's affiliated with any trips during that month. You can do that if you would like to. You can send a message. It's the same format as the other emailing the other forms, additional emails, carbon copies or blank carbon copies. And if you need to send it to like an admin who's not associated with the trip, you can just send it to them. Because I haven't clicked these guys over, it's not going to any of those people. So that is what you can do with the pre-flight reports. And then you can do it with all of the other. You've got your post-flight reports. As you can see, we have a lot of different reports available, so the system will pull a lot of information for you in regards to your operation and accounting, and also maintenance reports if you need them, things of that nature. So you've got a lot of information available to you. And then this is the settings. This is where everything is initially set up for the system. We will put in your passenger database and your crew and your aircraft if you provide us with that information, so you don't have to do that data entry. Here's your master for your aircraft, any of your maintenance descriptions so you can customize them, any of your due items so you can customize any of your due items, anything that you need to have that relates to the aircraft, and then your charge rates. If you do use charge rates, you have the ability to customize those. And then for your crew master, it applies to the duty standard, the schedule, if you want to schedule any of the items that you schedule out for, any currency items that you want to track, and then any events that you want to track in here. We'll go in here and you can customize all of those. You can delete the ones that don't apply. And then your configuration. This is going to be where most of the information is housed that you're going to use. We will put this information in here for you to begin with. Your controls, your date format. If you're not using the system, when does it log you off automatically? You can set password expirations. All of these things you have the ability to customize and make it. And these are user preference. So whoever is logged in, these can be customized for that login credential. So you know, do you want to display the holidays or not on the calendar? You know, all of these kinds of categories are there for you to customize. Oh, and then your screens. This is what you're going to open up with to begin with. So I have it set for flight calendar, and I have it set for the monthly pilot view. My calendar is monthly. You can also have it set up different ways. I do want the crew initials on the calendar. Some people don't. We had a lot of clients that asked for that, so we went ahead and added that feature. Send trip changes automatically. You can do this so that anyone who's affiliated with a trip, if there's a change made to that trip, then if you click yes, they will automatically receive a notice that the trip has changed with that new information. And then your duty standards and stay on legs between, and then your mechanic expenses. Do you want them to be non-trip or trip expenses? So you have the ability to customize that. And then here's your units. This how you enter your times for posting. You have the ability to customize that. This should stay consistent throughout the entire operation, so everyone should have the same thing for this. And then as we add interfaces, this is where you will find that information. We're in the process of working on getting Flight Mitigator, and their information will be there. We currently have Flight FlashPass. That is a EAPIS filing third-party vendor that we use to help with the automated process. And then we're working on the fuel vendors so that you'll be able to pull up fuel pricing for any accounts that you may have. So you'll be able to put the information in, and then when you click on it in the trip, it will bring up your pricing information, your account. It'll actually be logging you into your account, and you'll be able to see what your pricing is. And then the security settings, and this is where you can set the different security levels for everyone as far as what levels, what they can change, what they can't change, what they can see, what they can't see, things like that. So you'll have your basic security information. I'll go ahead and also, if you want to copy someone's security, if you have 3 pilots and they're all going to have the same security, you enter the security information for one of them, and then when you go to enter the next one, you just say copy the security information from that first one. And that way, all of that information will be copied into the new profile. So you don't have to go through and enter that information 3 different times. You can just enter it once and you can copy it. And you can do that with, you know, if you have an admins and you want them all to have the same, you enter one and then you can copy it. So it streamlines the process. Let me save. And then your screens, these are the different screens, and this is, are you giving someone the ability to view them, modify them, or do nothing with them. So all of the different screens that you have, you can give people different access to them. The pre-flight reports, same thing. Access, no access. Post-flight reports, access, no access. Security reports. Also, aircraft. Do you want them to be able to view the aircraft, modify it, or do nothing with it? And crew. Do you want them to be able to view the crew, change information in the crew records, or not have access at all? And then the web calendar also. Do you want them to have access? Do you want them to be able to see the crew duty, display comments? Do you want them to be able to request trips? Things like that. Do you want them to see if it's a confidential trip or make passenger requests? So you have the ability to, and then also as far as the different aircraft. This would come into play if it was a management company and they were managing multiple aircraft. So then they could give certain clients the ability to view certain aircraft. So they could have one client only view the information for their aircraft, and then another client only view the information for their aircraft, but have the crew members view the information for all of the aircraft. So that's where that's going to come in and where that's going to be appropriate. And then that is our software in a nutshell. We also have a dashboard. This will give you information, aircraft due items, any items that are due for an aircraft will show up here. It's kind of a quick reference, so you would be able to look at that. Crew duty, any crew items that are about to expire or have expired. Passenger items, same thing. If you started to post a trip, maybe you got interrupted, it'll tell you that you've got a leg on this trip that did not get posted. Any FBO mismatch. And then we did have a couple customers who wanted to be able to track birthdays, and so we put that category on there for them, so you can actually have birthdays being tracked if that's something you want to have in the system. Over here, it'll give you the time and the date. It'll give you the weather for the location that you're in. You can refresh it. It gives you the sunrise, sunset time. What we're also looking at and working on is being able to put in trip information so that you could click this and you could put in the city that you're going to, something like that, so that you would be able to put that information in and it would bring up the same information but for the other city. But that's something for in the future. And that is our software in a nutshell. Couple things I'll show you real quick. We also have these are the different views of the calendar. Here's the pilot brief. Here's the passenger view. And then we also have a crew view, and it just shows you the crew duty. We had a couple of customers who wanted to be able to just very quickly look at who's on duty when, and so we put this in there, and it's a nice little feature. It shows them you know, who's going and what time they're flying. And then this is a different views as far as list. It'll give you the calendar and it'll tell you with the little dot will designate when you have trips on your calendar, so you can quickly and easily see that. Also, you have a daily view. It gives you a view and shows you what trips you have on that day. I don't have any trips on. Oh, there they are. And then a weekly view, so you can see what trips you have during the course of the week. And then back to the monthly view. All right, so that is our software. I appreciate your time, and Horatio, I hope this helps.